I want to talk to you about the Woodhull study. For my listeners who are not familiar with the Woodhull study, I'll tell you about it. And it's a study that was conducted in 1997 first. It was named after Nancy Woodhull, who was the founding editor of USA Today. She was concerned about the limited representation of women in media. And then later she was diagnosed with cancer. And while undergoing her treatment, she was being taken care of by these wonderful nurses, which started to get her thinking about why more nursing voices were not present in media and tying it back to that gender disparity. So the study highlighted that lack of visibility for the voices and perspectives of nurses, being that they were the largest healthcare professionals at the time, 3.5 million strong, nearly 90% of whom were women. And even though that was the case, their voices were largely absent from stories where it seemed that their expertise would have been extremely relevant. And so that research showed that nurses were quoted in about 4% of any health news report, very hardly seen in anything that had to do with policy. And so that was that 1997 research. 20 years later, that research was revisited. And so it's called the Woodhull Study Revisited. And it was conducted by faculty at the George Washington University School of Nursing. And it was led by Dr. Diana Mason, PhD RN, as a principal investigator, with her co-researchers Barbara Glickston, Laura Nixon, and Christy Westphal. What did they find after 20 years of the first research being conducted? Unfortunately, they found that there was not much difference from 20 years ago. In fact, this time nurses were identified in only 2% of quotes in healthcare articles, 2% in newspapers, 2% in magazines, and 1% in healthcare publications, which is really abysmal. And nurses' voices did not appear in any opinion pieces. And when we were quoted, it was only about nursing-specific topics, but nothing that addressed us as experts in the larger sort of healthcare picture. That's the highlight of the study, the Woodhull study and the Woodhull study revisited.